isn't this what we have governments for, to support the most vulnerable at a time like this? I think it is rubbish that payment ends now for the most vulnerable in the middle of winter.
Hello, I'm Paul Barry. Welcome to Media Watch and to vigorous debate about how to curb a new spike in COVID cases and how to support workers off sick after COVID relief payments were axed, with the Today Show's Carl and Ali making it clear what they wanted the government to do.
There's got to be, 4 or 5 weeks here we try and get through this moratorium on it, at least a short-term payment.
And 2 days after that, when Labor's National President Wayne Swan pointed out the government had $1 trillion worth of debt to manage, Carl quipped back.
Where's your heart, Swanee? Where's Labor's heart gone?
Casual workers stuck in isolation with COVID, but also echoing that question on the ABC's 7 p.m. news.
I've done everything and I get COVID and there's no help.
I get upset when I think back over the last 7 days, and I bet thousands of other people are in my situation too.
On Friday morning, with the government standing firm, Health Minister Mark Butler set out to sell the policy to the media, but soon found no one was buying, and that RN's Patricia Karvelis in particular was not having a bar of his arguments.
These are tough decisions, but we inherited $1 trillion in debt.
Why should people trust that you're making the right decisions for their health when you've just flipped? You've become elected, you've become a minister, and you've just flipped your arguments. Wouldn't the logical thing be to look for savings not in the health area where there's a health emergency?
And that exchange was just the start of it. Fair to say, the interview did not go well for the government. And it then got worse when this 2020 tweet resurfaced from Anthony Albanese, attacking the Morrison government for not paying COVID support. And while editorials in the Daily Telegraph and Sydney Morning Herald had called for Albanese to hold firm, the rest of the media were protesting.
The most vulnerable people are those who don't have sick leave, and so they're the people that we need to be supporting through this pandemic.
Add in a growing revolt from state premiers, and it was no surprise the government quickly changed tack, bringing the National Cabinet meeting forward to Saturday morning and announcing the payment would stay, with the PM pitching it like this next day.
No, there's been no change in position.
But on Sunrise, no one was convinced.
As states grapple with a soaring number of COVID cases, the government made a sensational U-turn.
In a backflip from the Albanese government. This is a fairly major backflip.
Why the backflip?
Why the backflip? The media and the unions and the premiers ganged up, and the government was smart enough to quickly change its mind. But now, to a classic A Current Affair and their exclusive confrontation with an ageing celebrity paedophile recently released from jail. Here's the promo from last week.
The Hey Dad Monster.
I absolutely deny everything.
Robert Hughes. Free. Living a new life. Hiding from the world. But we got him.
OK, here we go. Ready? Are you enjoying your newfound freedom?
The final chapter.
So, was 73-year-old Robert Hughes really hiding from the world, or just from A Current Affair, after spending the best part of a decade in jail and getting deported? Either way, Nine flew Simon Boda and his camera crew 17,000 kilometres across the globe to confront the convicted sex offender in a UK shopping mall and ask a string of questions that got no answers.
Mr Hughes, how does it feel to be free today? Are you enjoying your newfound freedom? What about the women you're accused of assaulting? Have you got anything you want to say to them? Have you got anything you'd like to say to us at all?
Answer, no. The Current Affair clearly spent a lot of time and money on this ambush and a great deal of effort to track Hughes down, hiring a UK private detective and then following the former Hey Dad star and his wife for days on end to film them from afar. Even using a hidden camera to film the couple in a supermarket shopping for groceries. And Nine was keen to tell us how long the chase had taken and to show us the surveillance shots as they homed in on their target.
ACA's search for Hughes began the day he was released from prison. Over the ensuing weeks, we tracked down his long-term wife, Robin Gardner, a one-time agent to film stars including Cate Blanchett. Gardner lives in a modest apartment in the medieval cathedral city of Salisbury. She ultimately led us to this serviced apartment block in Southampton. We were there when the reunited couple arrived.
Now, Hughes is certainly not someone we would defend. In 2014, he was found guilty of 10 child sex charges, including 7 counts of indecent assault and 2 counts of sexual assault against 4 girls under 16. And he has expressed absolutely no remorse. But his crimes were more than 30 years ago, and he's spent a lengthy time in jail since then, serving 8 years of a 10-year sentence. What's more, in releasing him in June, the New South Wales Parole Board said Hughes was a below-average risk of reoffending, something A Current Affair forgot to mention. So, is he up to no good in the UK? ACA offered no evidence of that, and Boda told viewers...
Under his parole conditions, Hughes was ordered to report to UK police within 3 days of his arrival. He was also placed on the sex offenders register and has to inform police of any change of address or if he's planning to go on holidays. He must also tell police if he's going to be at an address for longer than 12 hours where a child is present.
Despite that, Boda then took us to an interview with the woman who blew the whistle on Hughes 12 years ago, former child actress Sarah Monaghan, recorded before he was paroled, saying she feared he would be completely unmonitored and would offend again.
What's your greatest fear if he does get parole?
That he'll hurt more kids. That he'll go over there and he'll hurt more kids.
And Boda then challenged Hughes with that verdict as he chased him down the street.
Sarah Monaghan says that you're still a threat.
It is classic tabloid TV. But were viewers cheering Boda on? Seems not, because 95% of the comments on A Current Affairs Facebook page were negative, with a string of posts like this.
Gee, ACA, give it a break. It seems like you are the ones now stalking him. Let this be the last ever story you run on this.
You are a mob of bloodhounds. He did his time.
I don't like this bloke at all, but he's done his time and he should be free from people like ACA.
10 years ago, A Current Affair did the world a favour by helping bring Hughes to book. Good on them for that. But the justice system has now punished him. And unless there's evidence that Hughes is likely to re-offend, the media should leave him alone. We asked Nine why it thought the story was in the public interest and if it had any evidence that Hughes was breaching any of his parole conditions. Nine declined to comment. Now, to the United States and the tale of...
A rape, an abortion and a one-saw story. A child's ordeal becomes national news.
And the person who helped turbocharge the story was the president himself.
10 years old, raped, 6 weeks pregnant, already traumatized, was forced to travel to another state. Imagine being that little girl. I'm serious, just imagine being that little girl, 10 years old.
And many did imagine it, including pro-choice activists who've been protesting the Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe versus Wade, and who seized on the story of the 10-year-old girl from Ohio as evidence that the court has put American women at risk. But the day after the president's comments came headlines suggesting the story was fabricated.
President Biden is facing increasing scepticism after he repeated the horrifying story of a 10-year-old rape victim to push his executive order on abortion, without seeking any evidence that the tale is true.
And so began a media frenzy over the veracity of the story, which had been making headlines around the world before the president even mentioned the case. In the UK, in Israel, and even in Bangladesh. So, was it fair to doubt the story? And where did it all begin? On 1st of July, the Indianapolis Star had told readers...
3 days after the Supreme Court issued its groundbreaking decision to overturn Roe versus Wade, Dr. Caitlin Bernard, an Indianapolis obstetrician-gynecologist, took a call from a colleague, a child abuse doctor in Ohio. This doctor had a 10-year-old patient in the office who was 6 weeks and 3 days pregnant. Could Bernard help?
Dr. Bernard could help because terminations were still legal in Indiana, unlike in Ohio, which had just...
outlawed any abortion after 6 weeks.
So the 10-year-old duly crossed the state line. It was a hugely powerful story in a highly charged debate, and it got everyone fired up.
One of the things that abortion rights activists feared has come to light.
10-year-old girl in Ohio who was 6 weeks and 3 days pregnant.
This is a real child and a real thing that happened.
So, was there good reason for the story not to be believed, given Dr. Bernard, an associate professor at Indiana University, had put her name and reputation on the line? Well, the fact-checkers at the Washington Post observed there was only one source and said...
This is a very difficult story to check.
noting that they could find no crime report, no documents and no hint of where the child was from. The Murdoch's New York Post also told readers Dr. Bernard was a prominent abortion advocate, and an editorial in the Murdoch's Wall Street Journal made clear that it did not believe her.
An abortion story too good to confirm.
There's no evidence the girl exists.
Over on the Murdoch's Fox News, the commentators were even more scathing.
We don't know if this story is even true, Mark.
We know that potentially it's not true.
There's no shortage of 10-year-old rape victims. For me, what I find so deeply offensive is that they had to make up a fake one.
And Fox's primetime host, Jesse Waters, capped them all by declaring,
"But if this horrific story isn't accurate, and the abortion doctor and the Indianapolis Star are misleading us, and the mainstream media and the President of the United States seizing on another hoax, then this is absolutely shameful and fits a pretty dangerous pattern of politically timed disinformation."
If. Waters also invited Ohio's Republican Attorney General to cast further doubt on the truth of the story.
So, Dave, have you had anybody come to you in your state to say, we're looking into this? A police report was filed?
Not a whisper.
And were all the doubters right? Well, no, they were not, because next day came this bombshell news.
A 27-year-old man named Gerson Fuentes was charged with raping a 10-year-old girl in the state of Ohio. Now, that little girl then traveled to Indiana for an abortion.
Is that daughter still pregnant today?
No.
Why not?
The victim went out of state to have a medically terminated abortion.
So, have the naysayers now been shamed into apologising? Not really. The Wall Street Journal did correct the record, but did not say sorry or admit it was at fault, while the Washington Post added an update, but again did not apologise or accept any blame for the doubts that it had raised. And the hosts at Fox News, well, I think you know the answer. Sorry is not their style. And Jesse Waters even continued the attack by suggesting incorrectly that Dr. Bernard covered up the girl's rape by failing to report her abortion to authorities.
So, is a criminal charge next? And will Dr. Bernard lose her license? Let's ask the Indiana Attorney General, Todd Rokita.
This abortion activist is out there front and center. The lamestream media, the fake news, is right behind it. And unfortunately, in Indiana, the paper of record is fake news.
The nerve of it really is breathtaking, and it's part of a pattern that continues in the US media week after week after week. And finally, to the pages of the Financial Review, and its often catty but always compelling Rear Window column, which last week had an ousted Liberal National Senator firmly in its sights.
Amanda Stoker's wild imagination.
Yes, columnist Michael Rodden didn't miss with this opening gambit.
Post-parliamentary careers are often a thing of wonder, given Australia's best and brightest, by virtue of their calling to higher office, generally lack any discernible skills or qualities befitting human beings operating in civil society.
Ouch. But what made Rodden's attack remarkable is that Stoker wasn't just an unsuccessful politician. She was a new columnist and colleague at the Fin Review, as Rodden explained.
Here at the Australian Financial Review, we have gladly assisted former Liberal National Party Senator Amanda Stoker with a fortnightly column. Her first piece of work graced our pages on Wednesday, imploring readers to ignore the reality of the Liberals being eaten away from the left in seats the party had held since time immemorial.
And that is precisely what Stoker had done in the same newspaper a day earlier.
Here's the real reason the Liberals lost the election. Whether it was on climate, gender, identity politics or culture, caving to leftist positions might have changed the subject, but it didn't win votes.
Rodden not only challenged that verdict, he also took aim at the remarkable claim from Stoker that voters had given her a big thumbs up.
In Queensland's Senate contest, I received the highest individual below-the-line support of any candidate.
Rodden's blunt response to that?
She didn't even receive the highest below-the-line support in her own party.
Stoker, in fact, finished fifth in first preferences on the Senate ballot, below colleague James McGrath. Good that the AFR lets Rodden correct the record, although some fact-checking before publication would have been even better. Meanwhile, maybe this should be Rodden's next target.
Energy Solutions.
Special report.
A special report is newspaper code for advertorial, for which read ads that look like articles. And this one was spruiking the gas sector as a clean energy solution, with 4 pages of paid content and 6 stories in total, telling us how important gas is for a clean energy future. But given that there are supposed to be strong firewalls between editorial and advertising, how come there was a pro-gas editorial in the AFR on the very same day?
For Australia, the lesson is our LNG export industry and developing our natural gas reserves has a critical role to play in maintaining global energy security in the transition.
So, is it buy 6 articles, get an editorial thrown in for free? A mere coincidence, we hope. Meanwhile, the hard sell from gas guzzlers like Australian Gas Networks and Gemina has been lucrative for Nine, with more sponsored content in The Age and the Sydney Morning Herald, complete with a greenwash perfect for carbon-conscious times.
Renewable gas can satisfy our energy hunger.
Genuinely renewable gas, of course, does not exist, at least not yet. And the industry's target is for only 10% of gas to be renewable by 2030. But advertorial obviously doesn't get properly fact-checked. And in the meantime, a pullout like that, we're told, is worth something like $30,000. We can't wait for the brave Rear Window columnist to take a big stick to that in-house exercise too. It certainly deserves it. That's all from us for tonight. There's more on our website where you can stream and download the programme. And don't forget Media Bites every Thursday. But until next week, goodbye.